What? A child that is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Story do you have?
I'd say the majority of bullied kids who turn to crime have that story.
I grew up with a kid named Brody. He was adopted from Russia as an infant and came to America with his adoptive parents. I'm telling you this so I can also say to my knowledge he didn't suffer once he came here. His parents were wealthy, obsessed with him. He got breaks at school specifically because he was adopted even though he couldn't possibly have any memory of it. Despite this, he relentlessly bullied me and other less popular kids at our middle school. He would hit boys, girls and anyone in between just for him off. He threw things, specifically at people's faces so it would hurt more. He just hated everyone. It got to the point that my mother was afraid to leave me at birthdays, events with him because she was scared he'd hurt me as I was his favorite victims because I often fought back and would get into trouble instead of him as a result. Anyways, IDK where he is now but studying child psychology and reading some of the recent research that's gone out. That kid was affected incredulously as an infant by having almost no physical touch from his early caregivers. That's the only explanation I have for to say I understand that he didn't have to remember to have trauma or attachment issues stemming from his infanthood. I actually kind of explained that at the end of my post. Sorry if you misinterpreted. I also don't think it's his fault he was like that, but was he a nasty sob.
Greater than they always profess to being bullied, but when the truth comes out the evidence says they were holes who people rightfully avoided for being assholes. Here's the thing, I haven't dealt with an actual school shooting, but several kids throughout middle and high school were expelled, arrested for bringing weapons to school. These kids ranged from obnoxious to awkward, but they were definitely can be and still be a victim of bullying. And if any of these kids had succeeded in an actual attack, I can guarantee no one would have said they were victims. And the popular kids, that were hurt, had been tormenting them for years in sadistic, the people most likely to speak to the media, would have said the victims were well-liked, and the attacker was a who alienated himself, much to the mystification of the rest of the everything said by the adolescent survivors of these shootings, who actually bother to paint a narrative, can be taken as gospel.
As a kid who was beaten for years by mother and stepfather, and dad knew this but would NT help me in the slightest way and treated me horribly, I can honestly say that as the kid who would take care of an ailing parent, I will now, as an adult, tell that now ailing parent that they are on their own to fend for himself.
A kid who was relentlessly bullied at my school for years sued the district and got an upper six-figure settlement.
Veteran teacher here. Sometimes, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. I had a student who would act foolish, taunt other kids, and just be a total until another kid would finally get fed up and challenge him. He would then cry, "I'm so tired of being bullied." Then, kids would totally ignore his ridiculousness, and he would cry, "I have no friends. Everybody hates me." Always the victim, always blaming others for his bad behavior.
BRB, filing a lawsuit.
Maybe not what the prompt was asking here, but the church did this to me. Grew up very religious and loved the community. That was until my dad had an affair and my whole family was basically ostracized from the church for his sin. For a place that preaches love and acceptance and forgiveness, they were the worst when my family was hurting. I despise everything that is organized religion now. If Jesus came back tomorrow, he would tear down most of them again.
One of my friends from elementary school, he's the typical middle child. His brother is 11 years older and his sister is 5 years younger. So of course he faces all the actual consequences for his other siblings' actions. Rules he didn't like were because of stuff his brother did when his brother was a kid. If his sister did something, it was his fault because he should have stopped her. His wants and needs were never the priority. If he wanted money, no, because it went to his brother in college. If he wanted friends to come over, no, because sister already had people coming over. He had to wear his brother's old clothes, but of course his sister got new clothes. Yada yada. You get that. He was 16, he went out on a late night food run, and while waiting in the drive-thru someone rear ends him pretty hard. Does a not insignificant amount of damage to his parents' car. The other driver takes full responsibility, offers to pay for the repairs. Just an unfortunate accident. Well, his parents revoke his car privileges because he got in an accident, and they had a no accidents policy. Didn't matter, then it wasn't his fault. So he told them that if they took away his car privileges, he will never lend them anything for the rest of his life. They grounded him for saying was about a decade ago, and he has never once given them anything. No money, no car, not even housing. He literally made his parents get a hotel once. He said he would forgive them if they apologized. To my knowledge, they have not. The way his sister was involved in an accident a few years back where she was at fault. And her parents not only paid for the repairs to her car, but also are helping her pay for her car insurance now.
I was lied to by HR, and it led to me not getting a promotion. I basically put them in a position where I couldn't be replaced and messed with the Excel codes I made for them that saved managers 6 hours a day. I didn't correct what I knew would get us high fees since it wasn't technically my job. Then I quit. $700K in fines, nobody trained to do scheduling, department without anyone to run it, and additional work for the managers was the damage. I started getting calls to help them fix it. I'm sure you can imagine how well that went for to everyone. Complaining about my actions here, this was years ago. The Excel document automation wasn't something I was asked to do. I did it because having the manager free made everyone else's job easier. The document literally needed to be made once a month in order to keep functioning. On top of that, this isn't some mum and pop shop that got hit with this. This was a multi-million-dollar company. I was doing work above my pay grade, and outside of the scope of my job, I just stopped doing the extra.
I mean, that's the short version of how it went. Had years of documentation of going to the principal, teachers, counselors, even the superintendent. They all either did nothing or made empty promises that they didn't keep. He had documentation for it. Highlight was when the lacrosse team jammed a lacrosse stick up his butt not once, but twice, and the only consequence was one of the kids being suspended for 2. I should also add that this isn't a rural school in the Deep South. It's a suburban school located in a liberal part of New 2. No, this did not happen on Long Island. I'm sad to hear that these stories are more common than I thought.
Became deaf when I was a child, learned sign language, but family was adamant not to learn. They said it's my problem, not theirs, so I have to be the one to learn how to communicate. Learned as an adult that I was a Native American and mother's white LDS family decided never to tell me. Met my father on Facebook about 10 years ago. That family is the opposite on every point. Yeah, villages can be good when the people in them reciprocate, are honest, and not afraid of learning. That kind of village is the one you want to learn that. Generational ideals and biases should not be taught, they need to be recognized and owned as a part of who you are. I wanted a big family when I was a kid, but as an adult with 2 kids, I love them, but absolutely no more damage. No more kids, and my current ones have full disclosure and decision making in this house.
When working at a daycare, I had a pair of boys in my class, Matt and John, fake names, of course. Full offense, John was trash. He was violent, foul-mouthed, uncooperative, and frankly, just not cut out for daycare. Kid was a budding psychopath. He never acted like this around anyone but me. He was a huge favorite among the staff that didn't work with him, so much so that they thought I lied about or exaggerated his behavior until the day he stabbed me. Now the other one, my burn the village boy. He was the one everyone said was misbehaved, but like John, his behavior with me was completely different. I treated Matt the way I treated all my kids. I found him to be cheerful, helpful with younger kids, bright and eager to learn new things. I considered the fact that I was the first teacher to engage with Matt in a positive way, and also the first to ever tell John no and enforce rules with him. Shortly after I stopped working there, I heard from a former coworker that there had been an incident. Apparently, everything went back to the status quo, where everyone spoils John and acts like he's perfect while treating Matt like he had already done something. There was a massive blow-up between him and John in particular, and from I heard, Matt basically hulked out and trashed the place. My heart broke for him. He just wanted attention and structure and absolutely thrived with it. John needed discipline and structure of a different kind, but instead was coddled and enabled. The results were inevitable. I'm just sad it resulted in Matt getting kicked out. I hope he landed at a new school, with teachers who actually cared about him. That entire center was a mess of like that. Favoritism, abuse, staff behavior, attitudes, etc.